Happy New Year. Welcome back to Into the Chatterverse, where two gents share their 2 cents on pop media. I am Victor Dandridge, the hardest working man in comics.
And I'm Bill, and Superman and Lois was very underrated.
Come on, man. Like, I love that you went back and watched this, but I think it's only fair for you to tell our audience, why did you finally watch the show?
So, little context, I'm a huge Superman fan.
Right.
And I remember watching the first few episodes, and I'm like, this is good,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it was like a mid-season break or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I never went back.
Mm-hmm.
I never really thought about it. And then they had their final season,
Crazy talk.
which was weird, but also you realize that the CW was getting out of it, all of it. And then we were in San Diego in Hall H, and they had their first and last panel.
That's so crazy that it was their first one
Yeah.
to also be their last. But keep going, keep going.
And I just, just loved listening to them and talking about the family dynamic of the show.
Right.
And it's hard not to like Tyler Hoechlin and Bitsy.
Right.
I mean, they just seem really genuine. Then I went back and watched it on Max, which was hilarious because I finished the third season somewhere in the middle of the month, and I'm like, wait, there's a fourth season.
Fourth season.
And then they're like, yeah, it's not coming until January. I'm like,
Seriously?
It's a Warner Brothers property.
On. Like, it's done.
Like, and it was absolutely, and I thought, maybe it's on Netflix, and it wasn't anywhere to be found.
No. You can see it on the CW app, I think.
And I think it was the second or third when I finished it.
Gotcha.
I thoroughly enjoyed it, you know, except I wouldn't, had they had more time, they could have told a better story at the end. But even so,
they hit all the marks.
Yeah, and I thought, all the acting was well done. You take out some of the teenage angst, but that has to be in there because of, the family
kind of the
dynamic
demographic.
of it. Yeah. And I really enjoyed it. Maybe not so much the ending of it.
Gotcha.
But there aren't very many shows
They get an ending.
that or hit the ending.
True.
Not everything is the last episode of The Next Generation.
That's very true. That's very, very true.
Playing poker and wondering why he hasn't done it before. I mean, even that
Yeah.
story to some extent wasn't great, but it was a good way for it to go out.
It
Probably
makes sense.
One of the better endings for Star Trek.
I agree.
But no, it's I encourage anyone to go watch that.
Absolutely. It was a very thoughtful show. Again, disappointed that for whatever reason behind the scenes it didn't carry over because it was so very thoughtful, and I would love to see, honestly, it's one of the few Arrowverse shows that I would love to see a novelization of, because I think there actually is story context that I would have loved to have seen. My one gripe is I got into my writer's headspace towards the end, and where I wanted the show to end, or how I wanted the show to end, so far from what actually happened, which was I wanted Supergirl to come back. And in the context of things, there's a rationale for it, which I won't spoil, but I wanted her to come back and take over, and the boys go to the future to go join the Legion of Superheroes. That's what I wanted, as a strange sort of retie back to Melissa Benoist and how that's how Tyler, came in as Superman and all that stuff. I wanted that little cute button, which is very, very fan servicey, and probably more expensive than what they wanted to spend to do that.
Well, I also don't think that she exists in that.
She doesn't, and
that show.
That's literally why I wanted it, because it would have been a wild twist to be like, actually, here's this multiversal setup where she is there in some sort of way.
Well, it's just like Diggle exists,
exactly,
but I don't. It's not the same Diggle.
Not the same Diggle, because they didn't follow through with the Green Lantern connection.
Yes,
at all.
At all.
Which I wish they did, but yeah. So I'm glad that you watched it. I'm really, really glad that you enjoyed it. I actually get to work with Tyler and Bitsy this weekend at Fan Expo New Orleans. So hopefully you guys will be in the audience, catch us, ask some questions. But I will get to gush over my love of the show with them.
Which reminds me, at the end of the month comes Portland.
Yes.
And those two will be there.
Ooh, so we will double down on the gushing.
Yes,
because
and then, if only I knew someone that could introduce me to the two of them.
No, I mean, I'm going to meet them this weekend, so we will see what we can do. Okay, so the context, the core of this week's episode is me. I was geeking out. I was watching a movie that I have loved for a very long time, and it's not necessarily a great movie, but it's a fun movie, and it is Ninja Assassin. And it hit me: why did this movie not get a follow-up? Not a sequel, not a franchise build-off, nothing like that. When there are other things that I think are similar genre, right?
Mm-hmm.
John Wick. I think Fast and Furious, to a degree, has the same sort of ridiculosity that this movie has.
It's definitely gone in that direction.
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
But how come Ninja Assassin didn't? Now, I brought it to you, and you, of course, very smartly and critically, have the simplest answer, which is fair.
But I have a question for you.
Yes.
Now, you love this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know anybody else that does?
Outside of my immediate circle, no. That is very fair.
That should be like...
That's kind of the context.
Yeah, that's the red flag right there.
All right.
But I immediately go to the gross.
Right.
And how much the movie cost.
It didn't make the money.
No, it didn't make the money.
I'm so
but
sorry.
it's a movie that I've at least heard of.
Okay.
I never watched it.
Okay.
And I know like one person in it.
Just one? Wait, no. Bring that back up.
Naomi Harris was.
I definitely know.
Was the only name that I recognized.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Because I
don't know who Rain is.
He didn't do much.
Well, the thing is, I would it's just one name.
Yeah, and that's.
You would have thought if it's just one name, you would have thought for sure.
He's in all kinds of stuff.
I would have known who it was.
I know Rain. Me and Rain, we go back. Like car seats Adhesion Tree. No, you should definitely know.
Rick Yoon.
Is it Rick? Is that who I'm thinking? I think it is Rick
Yoon. Okay.
Ish, no?
Well, I was in the Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, I was going to say, he was in the Fast and the Furious.
To me, he's just background guy.
Okay, that's fair. But there's also Sung Kang, who also...
Sung Kang, yes. I know who Sung Kang is.
So,
there's two.
That's what I mean. Like, these guys went on with the Fast and Furious franchise. I'm like, how come this one didn't have it? Like, what in the world is happening with this one that we didn't get more? It's a fun movie, but you flipped it around and made it a great question of what movies like are fan favorites of some level, cult classics maybe, but never got follow-ups. And when you said it, I'm like, oh snap, like that's a great question. And I think you literally broke my head with the last one that you pointed out. What was the first one that we said? We said this one, and then we said
Remo Williams.
Remo Williams was a dope movie. Okay, big shout out, rest in peace to Fred Ward. And is it Mako? Was that Mako? That was his teacher in that?
No. It's Joel Grey.
Thank you. Oh my God.
And that's probably a reason why it could never get made today.
Because it was a little. It might have been a little racist. Okay. All right.
Well, okay. I understand that point of view, but also, he's an actor.
I mean, he is an actor. Listen, I am pro. What's his name's Fisher Stevens in Short Circuit. I think that what he did was, by today's standards, inappropriate. But what he did was not he was not dogging, Indian culture.
Well, and Joel Grey was not
playing
like. In fact, he probably would have made a better Ancient One.
Oh. When you are right, you are right. That's a good
but
one.
I get it. I understand that.
But
but it's not blatantly racist.
Right. It's stereotyped. I'll give you stereotyped.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not 100%. But yeah, so like these are stories, characters, whatever, that I think could have superseded their first presentation. Okay, maybe Remo Williams didn't do gangbusters, and looking at the budget, it cost a lot to make that movie for what it made. But Remo Williams as a character, I think, is just as viable as any Rambo, Die Hard, or whatever. So why couldn't we come? Like, is it?
Well, first of all, Why wasn't there a sequel?
Right.
It obviously had a following after that.
To this day.
And
It's the 40th anniversary this year.
Decades later,
right?
Why hasn't it been remade?
Yes. Do you think that there's a rights thing?
Not after 40 years, there's no rights thing.
There shouldn't be.
No.
There should not be.
Right.
So, like, I mean, because at this point, it is blank slate, right? Like, if you know about the original movie, cool. But if you don't know about it, it's wide open. Is it not catchy enough? Remo Williams is not, like, I don't know, man.
You could drop the adventure begins part of it.
Sure. I would have come back to it after Tremors. Like, he had some smoke on him. Fred Ward had that vibe, man. He could come back after
now
Tremors.
Now you make me wonder how much Tremors made.
Don't do that.
I don't think it made a whole lot.
But Tremors had a franchise.
And it did have a franchise. And if it didn't make the money.
Right.
And I think it did, though. Actually,
I think it did,
because
too,
I think it did well.
Let's see.
It didn't do well.
Oh, wow. Wow.
17 million.
That
so...
can't be.
What was the budget?
Yeah, what was the budget? $17 million. We all know Tremors. We love Tremors. Tremors only made $17 million. Oh, it was a budget of 6, though.
Well, here it says a budget of 11.
Okay, that's probably closer.
But it's one of those things, though, that it had a following. So
yes.
They made crappy.
They did go direct to video style.
Yeah.
Sequels, which is kind of like, that's my whole thing with the Ninja Assassin. Like, I could totally understand, okay, we're not taking this back to major release. Fine.
Yeah.
But there was some cool stuff here that we could probably play around with something and, you know, do a Ninja Assassin 2 Electric Boogaloo, like whatever. I'm fine with that. Like, I was just like, how come we've never followed up with it? But then you brought up another one that we saw on the screen, 1984's, like, absolute classic, Big Trouble in Little China. Now, again, when it comes to cult classic, I have seen cosplayers dress up as Jack Burton.
Yeah.
Lopan, I have seen all of this. Kurt Russell, you can't say wasn't a good star, has been a star, has been a part of a bunch of like movies that ironically got franchises. I'm looking at you, Snake Plissken. Like, the Escape From series at least got a sequel.
Yeah.
It took a while, but it had one. But not Big Trouble in Little China. Insane. Now we looked at the money. It didn't make a lot.
Yeah.
At all. Like, not really at all. And I thought, like, maybe, you know, through word of mouth, like, that would be grounds to bring something like that back.
Yeah.
But is it possible that John Carpenter won't
I
allow
think
it?
a bit, you know what? That could be it.
Okay.
It could be Carpenter.
Okay.
He probably went, oh, okay, so, you know. And it says right here, this left Carpenter disillusioned with Hollywood and his influence, his decision to return to independent filmmaking.
Okay.
So he doesn't want to make. He doesn't want
to do it. John, I mean, if you're listening, and you should be, because you should be subscribed to our show, consider it. Consider it. I'm not saying, like, obviously bringing back this cast, maybe not. But I don't know how many folks here would be capable of making such a movie. Who would you recast in the titular role of Jack Burton if you had to pick a aspiring
just get his
star?
son.
Oh, dang. Wyatt could do that.
Yeah. I mean, they did it with the Monarch show.
That's a good call. Okay. All right. So let's start writing this. Like, let's just go ahead and start writing the sequel to Big Trouble in Little China.
What, Bigger Trouble?
Trouble in Littler China.
Littler China. How about Little Trouble in Big China?
Ooh, it's an international feature. That might play. That might play. Can you think of any other movies that kind of fit this bill, though, that, like, they didn't do well financially, commercially, didn't do well, but there's been, like, a fandom built around it that has just sustained, you know, this in conversation.
I mean,
since.
it's Office Space right there.
Oh, snap!
Not that you know. I mean, this many years later, right? I think I'm probably more interested in where they're at in life. But yeah, I mean, Office Space did nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
And has a huge following.
Huge cultural impact. Yeah. Like, it's big. To that end, okay, this is a crazy one. How did Clerks do? Did Clerks do well?
I think Clerks did okay. I think it did well enough that because I don't think the budget was huge on it. that's why it got. Well, it's 3.1 million. I don't think the budget was.
Yeah,
The budget is $27,000.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
it made
No,
it made more than 10 times. Which you look at it, and 3.1 million is not a lot, and I don't know what they paid for it.
Right.
But
I mean,
the fact that he made it for $27,000
is pretty solid.
I'd be more interested in what Clerks 2 did.
All right, let's see.
Because I don't think that did anything, because that's not a good movie.
Whoa. Clerks 2 is amazing.
So it made 27. Okay.
Yeah,
it made money.
No, yeah, it made a lot of
27
money.
million on a $5 million budget.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. I can guess where like $4.2 million went to.
It went to the cameo of Ben Affleck. That's where it went.
Sure.
That was the choreography for the dance scene. That's where that money went, because it's my favorite dance scene of all time. Actually, Clerks 2 is actually one of my favorite movies because of the inspirational context of finding your own quick stop. That was definitely something.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with who's in it.
Yeah, no. Who's in this movie? I don't. Big shout out to Brian O'Halloran. That's my guy. Love you, B. I've actually gotten to meet the entire cast of Clerks 2 over the course of my moderating career, which has been absolutely hilarious, including Trevor, Jason Mewes, everybody. And I guess I should also include Rosario Dawson.
I don't know why you would include her.
Yeah, she's in it.
She's whatever.
She shows up. She, takes a peek.
Now, Clerks 3 was one of those Fathom projects,
Yes.
right?
Yes, it was.
This explains that. $7 million budget, made $4.7 million.
Wow.
Also, you know what? I don't think I saw it.
It's darker, which is weird to say considering the original ending of Clerks was Dante dying, but there is a cloud over Clerks 3. One, because we know that what initially was supposed to be done in Clerks 3, he scrapped. And then after his heart attack, he came back and rewrote this one. And it's kind of I've always said it's a love letter to everyone that he kind of came. Well, no. Wait, I'm going to make sure I say this right. The Jay and Silent Bob reboot was the love letter to his career. Clerks 3 was the love letter to the people that started with him. So, like, all the people that, came into this with him, and along the way, from Brian O'Halloran to Ben Affleck to all these different people, it's kind of like, hey, the only reason why people cared that I had this heart attack was because of y'all. So thank you. So it's got a subtext, I think, to it that gives it more heart. But I do think that the strange release of the fandom thing did definitely impact it, because you had to get tickets through fandom. Fathom, sorry. It was smaller distribution release.
Yeah, so, but the ticket price was higher.
It was.
Yeah, it's because it's Fathom.
Yeah.
These are things I know.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna bury him because he had a bad movie.
I mean, Lord knows. Well, okay, that's one that we should look at. Zack and Miri Make a Porno, which was the one that for him disillusioned him from Hollywood for a bit.
Why?
Because he thought that, as far as I understand, he thought that it was going to be like this great comedy, and the response to it, I guess, was so not that at all. He did some of his early podcasts were talking about it, like how he was so disappointed with the way it was received, and he thought it was going to be so much better, received I'm sure he thought this was like $100 million movie thing. And it's funny. It's mad funny. I love this movie. But again, I didn't
great. Love this movie.
No,
I didn't really find it to be funny.
Is there a comparative that you could put to it? Like, we talked about Bachelor Party as another. I think that was the one from '84 that we saw. Bachelor Party as a dirty comedy, which I've not seen Bachelor Party. I know. I'm so sorry. How would you compare the two?
Well, you got someone in there that's very likable,
right?
And you've never seen him act like that.
That's true.
Whereas
Was Elizabeth Banks
I
known to be
I like Elizabeth Banks,
Yeah.
and I like Seth Rogen, but I could have been tired of both of them by that point.
That's fair. That's fair.
There's at some point in time you have to move on, and I kind of feel that way about some directors as well as writers, that your humor doesn't always work.
Okay, I can see that.
It's one of the funniest things that happened over the break was there's a picture from an LA Kings game.
Okay.
Let's see if he shows.
Wow.
Will Ferrell,
Okay.
dressed as Buddy the Elf, with a cocktail in his hand and a cigarette in his mouth. That is absolutely 100% Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
They asked him why he never made Elf 2.
Right.
And it was because he read the script and he didn't feel right about having to support it
Wow.
and tell everyone it's a good movie.
Right, because
the script, they were going to give him like $29 million to make this movie.
And he's like, nah.
He's like, nah. It's like, I can only do so much.
I respect Will Ferrell. I really do. I
loved Anchorman.
Yeah.
I didn't love Anchorman 2.
I did not. And did he learn his lesson? Is that what we're...
It may have been that he just realized you go to the well one too many times.
Got you.
I enjoyed Talladega Nights. I will watch that again and again. Step Brothers.
Never saw that one.
I think I've seen it twice.
Okay.
But there's just so many times that you can go back to that.
Got you. I mean, when it hits, like, and you know it, don't chase the money. Like, let that thing live.
But, when we talk about movies that deserve sequels and everything, why there wasn't, and you get Anchorman, and then you get that sequel, then you're like, maybe we shouldn't have gotten the sequel. But then you have a movie like Top Gun.
Right? And then you get that sequel, and you're like,
sequel.
That was worth it.
Yeah.
That was worth it. Okay. All right. It's what I love about it, though, is it kind of speaks to the artistry of the whole thing. It's not so formulaic. And I think that's one of the things that's very important for people to understand when it comes to media like cinema. It's not always a formula. Sometimes it is the right ingredients that work together at the right time, and that's why that worked. You do it again, you go, I wish we didn't do that. And that happens. That totally happens.
Well, it's like you can want Star Wars TV show,
right?
But there's times that you shouldn't want it at all.
And on that note, we will see you guys next time. Thank you all for tuning into the Chatterverse. I am Victor Dandridge, the hardest working man in comics.
I'm Bill, and these are not the droids you're looking for.
Well done.